Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to chapters 7 and 8, the law of respect and the law of intuition. So I'm super pumped to chat about these two chapters tonight. I know it's the end of the month, so we'll keep it short and succinct, but hopefully it'll be value packed for you guys so you can get a lot out of it. And there may be more hopping on here as we go. So we are going to dive right in. If you have your workbook, I'll be referencing a few things in there. I have been reading out of both books, actually. I like actually the simplicity of this one, but this one has a lot of good thought-provoking questions. So they're both good. So the law of respect, people naturally follow leaders stronger than themselves. So I think the cool thing about this, we are in a co-op class that is broaching the topic of apologetics and also logic. And it's just interesting to talk about laws that govern our lives. And I just think it's interesting when you study leadership, how there's certain aspects of it, almost like different facets of a diamond, right? As you turn it around and just see different components of what makes a really great leader. So one thing I was thinking about is leadership. How is leadership defined or shown? Well, I guess I kind of just answered the question. How do you know if somebody is a leader or not? You can type it in the chat or unmute. How do you know if someone's a leader? And this is not just Plexus, but just like life, as you think through like people in your life, you'd be like, yes, they're a leader. Some people are in a leadership position yet don't necessarily have good leadership skills. I've noticed that for sure. People want to follow them if they have influence. One of the things that I was thinking is that, let me make sure no one's trying to get in here. Oops, there we go. I feel like I'm not seeing everybody. Weird. Anyways, I think the biggest thing about leadership is, yes, Angie, that's what I was thinking. It's shown by the actions they take. It's like who they are and also what they do. So anyways, that's just kind of a side note I was thinking about, but I loved this little, vignette or description of this mystery person. Were you guys anticipating that it was going to be Harriet Tubman? I wasn't. And actually, I read it to my kids. It was so good. I read it to them on Friday and was like, and I made them guess. I'm like, can you guess who it is? And I think one of them said Sojourner Truth. And I don't know if they said Frederick Douglass, but they were kind of close. But I just thought it was interesting that leaders don't always look like leaders. I think sometimes we think there's a certain look that somebody has to have or whatever, but it's really not true. This lady, she had some fire in her, right? Some spunk. I was like, wow. There was a lot of things about her. Like if you would just have said, she couldn't find or was like had erratic employment. She was missing her 2 front teeth, all the things. She didn't necessarily look the part, but it was the actions that she took, the people that she inspired, the hope that she had and that she instilled in others, and that she was tough. Knowing what we know about her life, and then she wasn't afraid to confront people. Like she so believed in her mission that she would hold people at gunpoint if they threatened to retreat, and basically said, dead men tell no lies. Get off your butt and get moving. So I just was inspired by her testimony. And it says she was fearless and her leadership was unshakable. And she stood before kings in the figurative sense, that she was just a person of a lot of influence because of what she did. And I think that is also a example of how it talks about on page 69 in the workbook, or on page 77 in the regular book, how people don't follow others by accident. It shows on that graph kind of how like a level 10 leader, level 5, level 2 leaders, eventually it's going to shake out to where people align themselves and follow leaders stronger than themselves. So it's unlikely that a level 2 leader is going to attract a level 10. Now, if we plexify it and look at the demographics, sometimes there's outliers to the norms where, maybe the person that signed you up, or maybe you look at a sideline team and you're like, wow, maybe there's a level 2 or 3 leader that recruited a level 10 leader. Sometimes it's a little bit like, oh, interesting how that happened. Maybe it's a next door neighbor, and maybe it was just more of like, hey, you should try these supplements. And then it just works out where that person takes the ball and runs with it and just totally passes up the person that signed them up, right? So it's just interesting how sometimes there's some outliers to the norms, but in general, and that's why studies on leadership, personal growth, all these things, why it's so important to be continuing to learn about that, because we're going to naturally increase our leadership awareness so that we can grow and be better leaders ourselves. So I thought it was also interesting that usually the more leadership ability a person has, and also when you're studying leadership, how you start to recognize it in different areas of your life. Maybe, I feel like church is a good example, how you can see giftings and you can see leadership and even positions where maybe people are in a position of leadership but aren't necessarily like high level leaders. And when that happens, that can be frustrating. But it is interesting. Once you are aware, it's like that awareness, you don't unhear it, right? So anyways, it talked about natural leadership ability. And I think it's interesting to note that he said that one of the greatest pitfalls for natural leaders is relying on talent alone. And then there's respect for others. People want to follow people they respect. And I think that just goes without saying that when you respect someone, there's admiration, there's love, there's influence, and someone, you're influencing people to follow you. And so, but recognizing that all leadership is voluntary and you can't coerce people into following you. And I think this is totally applicable in family life also, when we think about children, training children and leadership within the home. How interesting that is. I loved the little piece on courage on page 72 in the workbook. It said that one thing that caused everyone to respect Harriet Tubman so much was her tremendous courage. So I don't believe that courage means that you're not afraid. It just means that you're willing to act in spite of being afraid. She was determined that she was going to succeed or she was going to die trying. She didn't care about the danger. Her mission was clear and she was absolutely fearless. Well, I don't know if she was absolutely fearless, but she took action in spite of fear if she felt it, or the overwhelming vision for freedom overshadowed fear that she felt. So I like what it says in that next paragraph. It says, a leader does not deserve the name unless he is willing occasionally to stand alone. And I remember Elizabeth Elliot saying, solitude is a requirement for leadership. I remember that from my college days, and I was encouraged that sometimes we have to stand alone, stand by ourselves. And then it said, good leaders do what is right, even at the risk of failure, in the face of great danger and under the brunt of relentless criticism. I can't think of even one great leader from history who was without courage. Can you? A leader's courage has great value. It gives followers hope. And I think that's the thing, if we're growing our leadership, there's going to be growing pains. Not every person that we know is necessarily going to applaud us or be proud of us. There may be some really big criticisms or some really big naysayers, but I think that's the growing pains of leadership, is sometimes you outgrow the people that are closest to you, and that's hard. I'm not negating the fact that it's hard, but I think if you, to put it in Plexus terms, if you believe that this is the path for you, that God has stewarded this to you for this specific season, for this purpose, then it's like one of those things where, you know what, I'm going to keep going regardless of what people say or whatever's happening. Okay. And I think often we can get so stuck in our heads, just like the Tuesday coachings have proven. So much of what we have created is what we think about, what we verbalize, the thoughts that we're thinking, the feelings that we're feeling, because then we take action from those two things. So becoming aware of our thoughts, becoming aware of our feelings is essential, because once we're more aware, then we can be like, you know what? That thought is not serving me. I'm going to try a different thought, and let's see if the outcome is different. So anyways, I just wanted to challenge you guys to rise up in courage and to embody that character trait in whatever avenue, God has for us to put that on, and I think courage is something that's forged through experience often. So I want to challenge you guys to get bold. Get bold. And there might be some things coming to mind. So I want you to pop them in the chat. What are 3 ways that you can get bold in your Plexus business? Is there any area that you feel like you're just like holding back a little bit? When I think about courage, I think about the feelings and the thoughts that back those things that would describe someone that's being courageous. Someone that's being courageous isn't cowardly in their mind. In their mind, they're courageous before they're ever taking action. And we think about the feelings that we might feel to take courageous action. What would some of those things be? So type in the chat at least one way you are going to get bold in your business. Who has something? Anything coming up for you? Angie says, reaching out to the business builders. Awesome. Do you have a couple names in mind, Angie? Sometimes you do, and sometimes it's like the 3.
I do. I'm just gonna tell you, it's Pastor Larry Crawford, who is my pastor. I brought it up to him my first year, but I don't bring it up to him anymore. And he is so influential. But they did Avocare before. So I think that's why I kind of stay away from it.
Well, it's worth another ask, because Advocare has become public, like a publicly traded company. And so people that have prior network marketing experience, they understand it. That's definitely a wise ask and a good swing around ask, because you never know what has changed since then. And I think the fact that you have been so bold with your testimony and how the products have helped you, that's just fuel for that ask. Sorry, let me mute this. All right. Who else? Who else is feeling like they need to get more bold in some aspect of their business? Anybody? Increasing the amount of reach outs and posting more about the business on social media. Yes. Is that scary to you guys? Why is it scary? Linda, can you unmute?
I probably worry too much about what people think, and I have it in my head that they're going to think like they're being used. Like I don't really care about them, but they're like a meal ticket for me.
Okay. What would be an alternative thought that you could think instead of, well, let me first ask you this. When you're thinking that, what feelings does that create for you?
I'm not reaching out.
Well, but that's the action that you're taking, but
Okay,
what is
how do I feel? Afraid, fearful.
okay. And then from fear, do you still, what kind of action do you take? Because,
Yeah, typically nothing when that's my thought process.
uh-huh. So what could the new thought be? Because I mean, this is the thing is we have choices, we have the choice about our thoughts. So
Mhm.
we can, I mean, you or me, we can still keep thinking that about reaching out about the business or posting about the business, or we could think something else.
Yeah.
So what is a new thought that you could consider thinking in replacement of that thought?
What I've been trying to do is check where my heart is. And if my heart is in the right place, then just send the message. And if I'm misunderstood, I'm misunderstood. But if you're coming from a pure place that you want to help them and you have something to offer them, then people are going to think what they think, and you are going to be misunderstood, whether it's about Plexus or something else, or because you're not going to please people all the time and you're going to be misunderstood. So if it's not happening with Plexus, it could happen with something else innocently. You see someone and they're like, well, you gave me such and such a look, you must be mad at me. It's like, I didn't even see you, what are you talking about? So yeah, just to get out of my head, and if I'm in the right place, then move forward, and I can't worry about what they might think or say or how they feel.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. We're not responsible for the reactions that people have. We're responsible, or our job is to offer. And if in their emotions are their choices, their thoughts are their choices. And so if we're coming with a pure heart and we know exactly why we're doing what we're doing,
Right.
we don't have to worry. We don't have to worry because that we know what the truth is.
Right.
So also Justin, we're talking about this. He's like, we listened to Jocko, I think his name is Jocko Boyens at the Father Son Camp. If you don't know who he is, go check him out. His messages and sermons are amazing. But basically he's like, he goes, I don't need anybody to like me. He goes, I have a wife and I have 3 kids, and that's all that matters to me, and obviously God, about who likes me, who loves me. My wife and my kids love me, and my kids are my friends. He goes, I don't need any more than that. And so he goes, and so that is why I can share with you what I'm sharing with you, because when he goes, I'm the messenger, and I don't really care if you like me or what I have to say. I'm here to deliver the message. And Jeff was like, he is so bold. And what if we were bold like that? Because we know our purpose, we know who we are, and we're not afraid if people like us or don't like us or what they say or whatever. And like how many opportunities and how much potential we will max, because we're not living in fear, we're living in freedom of what other people think about us, which is ginormous. So Linda, curious, what thought could we create, or what thought and feeling could we create to counter or offer our brain a different thing to think in light of what I'm going to sit down and reach out about the business?
I sent quite a few messages this afternoon, and I wouldn't let myself think before I sent them. You know what I mean? I just took action and did it, and didn't take the time to think, what will they think? What will they say? How will they respond?
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes for me, it's just doing it and not sitting and thinking for a half an hour about all the possible outcomes that might or might not happen.
Mm-hmm. That's not usually very helpful. Like our
No.
brains aren't doing us any favors typically.
No,
Overthinking.
not typically.
So taking the drama and the emotion out of it, although we could choose what feeling we're going to feel when we do our business reach outs. So what emotion do you want to be operating from when you are sitting down to do reach outs?
Feeling positive and confident.
And instead of the little thought of, ooh, they're going to think I'm using them, or they're going to think they're a meal ticket, what could we think instead of that? And any of you who are listening, jot down on your paper what feelings you want to be operating from when you sit down to message some people about the business.
That I could be a blessing to them, and this could change their life physically or financially.
Maybe something like, I have the opportunity to forever change their future because I was showing up with excellence, boldness, and courage. How does that fit or feel? What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I'd say it's perfect.
So this is significant because becoming more aware of the thoughts that we're thinking and the feelings that we're feeling, we can take charge of our control system, which is our brains, which so often will lie to us, deceive us. Like the scripture is clear about how our brains often are just not our friend. And so I would just encourage you guys to feel whatever feeling you put down, actually type it in the chat, excited and confident. You can sit down when even if you are having like a blah day, like, well, I don't really feel, but I'm going to go sit in my chair and do my work. Remind yourself of, okay, actually, for these 30 minutes, even if I have to fake it, I'm going to choose to be joyful, confident, like all those things. We sometimes have to train our brain or our mind and our heart like we train our babies, right? I'm in the stage with Abigail where I'm like, she's having a fussy attitude. We had to tell her yesterday, like, you can't be a scary fairy. Nobody wants to hear your bad attitude at the party. And how she changed her attitude just by sometimes it takes a little more than, vocal encouragement, but how even a 2-year-old, they can change their tune quick. And by us correcting and pointing out that they're having a bad attitude or they are whatever, fussing or whatever, and how mama says no more fussing, and then how quickly they can change their attitude. So we can change our attitudes too around things. So anyways, not to belabor the point, I want to challenge you guys to write 5 I am clear statements. So write this down in your piece of paper. I'm going to, you guys can, let me think how to, maybe just pop it. You guys are all in the October runners thread, right? Pop yours in that by Wednesday at midnight. And I'm going to draw for a $25 gift card of your choice. I'm going to draw a name. So a couple of examples of the I am clear statements. And the reason why this is important is because this will help you get bold, clear, and courageous in your business. Okay. Because our businesses are us. They're rooted in us. And if we're not healthy, or if we're just feeling blah or whatever, or we don't have clarity about where we're going, what we're doing and why, we're going to just kind of stall out and flounder, right? So a couple examples of I am clear. It is clear, or you could say I am clear. It is clear that being consistently successful in this business is possible. It is clear that God is using the interactions and relationships I'm making through this to further his kingdom. It is clear that I can do this. It is clear that if I am consistent, I will see growth. It is clear that I'm an awesome wife and mom. It's clear that so many people need these products and this opportunity. It is clear that I'm capable and worthy. Let me find a couple more. It is clear that I was made to encourage people with my gift of optimism. It is clear growth and success in this business makes people a better wife, friend, business owner, and communicator. Totally agree with that. It is clear when I'm in action that I attract hardworking, like-minded women who want and need this business and all that comes with it. It is clear that this business works when we work. And it is clear that these products are a tool to help people when doctors have given them no hope of relief. So anyways, these are all really good, but I want to challenge you guys to do those 5 I am clear statements by Wednesday night and then share them in the chat. So we have accountability and we have a little carrot too, because I'm going to draw for a $25 gift card of your choice. So, yes, Angie says, I don't see Angie. Oh, Angie, I was thinking okay, Angie Gaddy. I kept thinking, I don't see Angie. There's 2 Angies, Angie Amber City. I always think of you as Angela. Angie says, I want to remain humble and remember where I was prior to me joining also. Yes, important to remember that. And one thought that I just reoccurringly thought, especially with like in my first couple months of Plexus, and I don't know if and it's not that I didn't have to battle fears because I had to, but I chose the thought, I cannot wait for people to come back and thank me for sharing Plexus with them. And guess what's happened? That's totally happened. And it's not because like I want all the congrats or I want all the accolades or anything like that, but that was my mindset in reaching out instead of thinking, oh, I'm bugging people, or oh my word, they're going to hate this, or oh my word, who's going to even do this with me? I mean, I think it's one of those things where our brain offers us different thoughts at different times. So maybe we're having a down day and we just have negative thoughts floating around in our brain. We have to combat that with truth and rise up with courage, right? To battle. We have to go to battle with our thoughts. But on one hand, I had the thought of like, who would even do this with me? Like I didn't know. I knew I could get people in the products, but there was the business part. It was like, I don't know, are people going to actually like post on social media like I am? Like, I feel crazy, like I'm doing this. But it turns out they do. And I proved myself, my crazy brain, my whatever negative skeptical brain, I proved it wrong. But on the other hand, I had that thought of, you know what? People are going to come back and thank me for sharing Plexus with them. And that was the thought that I operated from most of the time. I'm not saying that I've always been on a high, but I think even me becoming more aware of like some of the thoughts that I've reoccurringly thought that have fueled me in my business is helping, I think, to communicate that to you guys so that you can also, if you like that thought also, you can start thinking that thought and operating from that. So, okay. And then he said that, okay, and I loved this. So there's like 6 things about the law of respect. So natural ability, respect for others, courage, and then the next one is success. And I love this because I just want to encourage all of us to just get successful. I hear my dad ringing in my head on this, where he says, he would say, it is a decision to be successful. You decide to show up. And this is kind of Carissa also, to show up with excellence. In my excellence, I'm going to show up. And so anyways, I want you to jot down or type in the chat 3 ways that you want to show up better. So take like 2 seconds and think, how could you show up better this week or this month? We're at the start of November almost. So how can you show up better? Who's gonna pop in the chat or unmute and say anything coming up? For me, I have some handwritten notes I need to send, and I need to get better at follow-up. I have a lot of 0 PV people on my level 1 list right now that I don't know if it was a matter of my follow-up or what's going on in their life, but I can get better at follow-up. So that's something that I personally feel like I need to show up better in. Who else? Who else has something? Use nap times to work, post daily, and plan those out ahead. Yes. Oh, the daily tasks. Yes, the reach outs. Consistency with my thoughts in the right place and with boldness. Good. All right, keep typing in the chat. Okay, and at the end of the chapter, it says, take a good look at the qualities that help a leader to gain respect. Did you guys rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? What you rated? Did you guys all rate yourself? So leadership ability, that would be like natural ability, respect for others, courage, success record, faithfulness, and value added to others. Oh, I guess I missed those. After success comes loyalty. And then the number 6 is value added. And I feel like we discussed that last week also. And this is where I think Plexus success comes in. Continued Plexus success is being a value adder, because we're either an adder or a subtractor. And one of the things to keep in mind is most people, like in a social media sense, are there to consume. They're not there to necessarily add value or give value. That's not like their intention. And it takes intentionality to do that. It takes brain space, it takes bandwidth, it takes thinking about what to share that could bless someone else's life, right? And sometimes it's just you doing your thing with the kids, right? And that can just totally bless someone. Or you, whatever your thing is that's easy to post about right now, right? Because it's something that you do in your life. But having a dedication to adding value to others, that is super duper important. Okay, so I want to encourage you guys to take courage and ask 1 to 3 people in your life if they would rate you in these areas. I think definitely ask your spouse, because I think that could bring up some good conversations. And then at least one other friend, because it will give you more awareness in your life. And I love how he said that having the respect of those closest to you is priceless. I think true success is having the people who know me best respect me the most, because the people that we're closest to, they know us well enough to know our flaws as well as our strengths and our giftings. Well, one thing I was curious about, there was a couple of examples. So I was wondering, what kind of leader are you, or what kind of opportunity would you be more likely to take a lead role in? Planning a trip, entering a business venture, experiencing a medical emergency, or teaming up to play a sport? Type in the chat which one or ones would you be more likely to do? And I think we could also say planning an event or a party. Any party planners on here with me? Oh, Sarah says she would plan a trip or party. Oh, Roberta, I'm not sure what you're asking me to relist, but I can relist if I need to. Linda said she would team up to play a sport or plan a party, planning a trip or an event. Angie says yes. Okay, good. Teresa, Jeannie, and Roberta, if you want to pipe in what you would be more likely to be exhibiting leadership in. It's just fun to see, and also fun to be aware that if you're planning a trip or you're hosting at your house, or you are maybe putting together a small group at church or leading a women's ministry or whatever, handling a medical emergency, it's interesting to see who like even in a crisis situation, like who is Johnny on the spot taking charge and giving orders to other people? Like they click into action. And sometimes it's people that you don't necessarily see them leading in other areas. But when that happens, they take action. And some people are totally frozen in those situations. Christmas party for a team. Roberta was good at planning a trip, good at medical emergencies. Yeah, so it's good to be aware of these areas where we may be showing leadership and we don't even think of that as leadership. So, okay, good things. All right, we're going to shift over to law of intuition. Law of intuition. Okay, this is really awesome. Did you guys find some good insights on this? Okay, he said that leadership intuition is most difficult to teach because it's one of those things that is innate to certain leaders, but it can be developed. And it is interesting. So a couple of things about leadership intuition is that leaders are readers of their situation. They pick up on details that might elude others, and they tune in to leadership dynamics. They can sense people's attitudes and detect the chemistry of a team. Some people are super oblivious to that kind of thing. Another thing is that they are readers on trends, that they have the context of the bigger picture. They have the ability and responsibility to step back at the moment and discern not only where the organization has been, but also where it's headed. And then leaders must be a few steps ahead of the people that they're leading. And they can do that only if they're able to read trends. So that's super important. Leaders are readers of their resources. They think differently. They're readers of people. So are any of you people watchers? Even watching kids at your house play, it is so interesting to kind of pick out like, oh, wow, he or she is definitely the ringleader, you know? And then lastly, leaders are readers of themselves. And in such a self-focused culture that we live in, I think there's a balance of healthy view of self. And also, I think there is merit and value in understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, knowing your giftings, knowing what leadership qualities that you possess, what you're good at. That's important. And I don't think it's something that we should, poo-poo or not study or know about, because that's an important piece, like especially if you are developing a community of people, if you're leading a team of people, knowing yourself and having self-awareness is important. But of course, always check and balance, right? Because we live in a culture where it's just like self, me, always thinking in terms of ourselves. But there's a balance there for sure. When leaders become self-centered, so I think that's the difference, is if you're trying to understand yourself with a self-centered view or apart from God. We can never understand ourselves apart from God. That's when we become pessimistic, rigid in our thinking, and they're likely to hurt organizations, which is so interesting, that we would have the power to, negatively impact an organization as well as positively impact, depending on our leadership. So I liked that on page 85, he said that if you're not naturally intuitive, you can develop it at some level if you're teachable, and that leadership can be learned. So anyways, people typically fit into 3 major intuition levels, the natural ones, right? Number 2 would be the ones that can be nurtured. And then number 3 is those who will never understand leadership. And he said, clearly, that's not you, because you would never have picked up this book in the first place. So interesting. Yes, it's good to be a watcher of people. And I think Plexus has made me way more aware. Like I had no idea there was this rabbit hole, not that it's a rabbit hole, but that there's so much to learn about people, about how we think, about how we tick, and like all of the things that I have learned in the Plexus context has really helped me to be more understanding and a better wife, I think, in a lot of ways, a better mom, a better discipler of my children, and even just more intuitive to like their needs, how they think, because newsflash, like our kids are not necessarily clones of us. They don't necessarily think the same way we do in the sense of processing information or expressing feelings or things like that. So I think that's also another thing is with our teams, like we cannot control people. The only person that we truly have control over is ourselves. But that we can influence the way people think by what we talk about, what we share, who we are as people, and we can live inspiring lives by the actions that we take. So I'm curious, how are you guys when it comes to trusting your own intuition? Are you a facts or a feeling person? You can pop it in the chat. Teresa is feeling. Angie is facts. Sarah is feeling. I'm feeling also. Like, I just feel like this is what I need to do next. And so I want to just encourage you guys to trust the intuition that you have. Sometimes it's Holy Spirit inspired. Sometimes it's just within you, you have like this innate sense of, this is what I need to do next. Or sometimes there will be a thought that comes to you, and don't discount that and think you have to have permission from somebody else, or because maybe you haven't seen that model to you, that is not the direction or way you should go, because it might be the thing that moves you forward in your business. But often we sit on ideas for a long time and let them simmer, when actually we just need to take action on them, put them into motion, and then we can always tweak and pivot after the fact and be like, did that work or not? Or do I need to tweak or pivot or keep doing more of what we're doing because it seems to be working? And so I think leaders also have that sense of, I don't know if this is working anymore. I think I may need to revamp or pivot on an idea. For example, the little 15-minute messenger chats, like for helping people get, friends started with them on their Plexus products. Sometimes we have to make a little tweak on that. Sometimes we did Facebook groups for a long time. I don't know that either one is more or less effective. I feel like right now, I kind of like the vibe of the 15-minute messenger chat. And so sometimes there's little pivots or little tweaks on something that you can do to just make it a little more effective, or like 3-day sample groups. Sometimes it's like you could, sometimes when you feel like it's fizzling a little bit or it's just getting a little old hat, you can be like, you know what, how can we change that up a bit? Maybe I can send out samples first. And once everyone gets their samples, then we could do a 15-minute messenger chat. And then maybe we could schedule one the next week, and everybody that was part of the sample group, the first week, can invite a friend, and maybe we could do it, spark some momentum that way, So anytime you have those little sparkling ideas, put them into motion and see what happens, because that is your intuition talking to you. And I'd also say that I rely on intuition a lot, like for what to say, when to say it, when to ask, and even how to solve problems. But to let yourself think and not just always wait for someone else to give you the answer, because often the answers are within you. You just have to ask the question and let your brain come up with some ideas or take a guess, Okay. The intuitive leader observes and assesses. So I would just encourage you guys to tap into that a little bit more if you feel like you are lacking in intuition, or if you feel like that's not necessarily a strength of yours. And maybe just learning about it is going to help you have a little bit more awareness about the intuition piece. So anyways, anything else that came up for you on these chapters, or anything you guys want to talk about? Okay, so your homework is to do the 5 I am clear statements. Just talking about like what you do, why they pick you, how you serve others, taking the questions out of it for yourself even, and in more confidence and courage, putting yourself out there. You can just post it on the October chat or just send it to me privately, but I feel like it would benefit others to see our I am clear statements. So just put them in the October runners chat is fine. And then I will draw for a card, and then don't forget to have 1 to 3 people evaluate you on that list, the law of respect list, because I think that will just help us just in our awareness of those areas of our leadership. Good, good. Okay. Well, I got a pair of Nikes to earn tonight. Anyone else? I have one more person to sign up. So cannot wait to see who that person is. I'm excited. And then we have our team call tomorrow night. And it's a collaborative team call with Brenda Martin. So it'll be fun and amazing. And don't forget about Momentum Meetup on Saturday. It's gonna be awesome. All righty, guys, proud of you for investing time in your leadership development and your personal growth. It is time well spent. So super duper proud of you. All right, love you guys. See ya.